Gimana rasanya trending topik di Twitter? Gue jadi gue yang nanya.
Aku sih sekarang udah ya ketawain aja sih. I'm not gonna lie. I'm always really angry at like a lot of the stupidity that gets thrown at me. I vent to a lot of friends, Peter being one of them, and I think kesimpulannya adalah belajar bagaimana ketawa. Ketawa tentang kejadian-kejadian di dalam hidup.
Yeah.
That grammar was probably so butchered. I'm so sorry. But yeah.
Tapi video lu rame lu, gila.
Yeah.
Banyak banget. Tadi aja gue buka Twitter nongol muka lu lagi.
Oh
gitu.
yeah, no. Kemarin aku buka. I opened Twitter for a few seconds and like the first thing I saw was my name and I'm like, oh, okay, shit, here we go again.
Your name so I'm and your face and Cinta Laura face.
And Cinta's face. Except I think everybody likes Cinta's face more than mine. So, but I feel like we could start with this.
Oke. Tunggu, sorry. Ini kita udah mulai buat ini ya.
Udah.
Bener-bener gak ada opening ya?
Bener-bener gak ada opening. We jump straight into it.
Gue bikin opening deh buat dulu ya.
Meong.
Gak meong. Kan ini acara lu.
Gak apa-apa.
Podcast lu enggak meong.
Lu mau meong juga boleh.
Welcome to the Indaji ya.
Yes.
Welcome to the Indaji show when controversy become trending topic.
Awas episode ini trending pas udah keluar e-commerce and Indaji.
Gue sih gak suka trending topic ya, to be honest.
You becoming the trending topic. Has e-commerce ever trended?
Kayaknya gak pernah sih. Tapi ya kalau lagi rame-rame ada lah.
Yeah,
kayak yang kemarin
pasti.
terakhir tuh kasusnya driver Grab.
Oh, that was you. You were the one who like blew that shit up.
Awal-awal kita bantu lah. Awal-awal kita udah bantu.
That's a good thing to blow up. Ada beberapa hal di mana kamu mau bikin jadi viral biar akan ditanggapin dengan law enforcement. Karena ya sayangnya di negara ini juga a lot of things. Yeah, if you don't make it viral, like you're not gonna get any justice. I mean, on today's topic, I feel like we could start with this. I think we could talk about this screenshot of an article that I'll include up on the screen. Ranking of countries with the highest and lowest English proficiency in Asia.
Masih bahas bahasa Inggris.
Hah?
Masih bahas bahasa Inggris ya.
Sepertinya dia belum kapok.
Maksudnya?
You still want to discuss about these English things.
That's what we agreed to talk about today.
Kan udah sama Cinta Laura kan?
Enggak sebenarnya. No. You guys, y'all should know. Andrea and I, like, we've been in contact for a while, wanting to film an episode. And actually, the inspiration for this episode was from you because you made this post. I'm gonna put it up here because you made this post.
Iya, gue jadi gini buat klarifikasi aja. Gue sempat ada bikin tulisan lah di Instagram bahas tentang kenapa orang Indonesia itu susah berkompetisi secara global. Dan salah satu alasannya faktornya adalah tidak mau, tidak bisa, dan malu berbahasa Inggris.
Yeah, and that's why I feel like we could bring that over here and we can dissect all the reasons why, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, the inspiration for this episode was actually from him. It's not because I got into shit because of my episode with Cinta. Like, it's completely... that was completely unplanned, but this episode was planned.
Ya gitu ya konteksnya ya gue. For the context itu biar nggak bingung.
Iya. Dan biar orang nggak ngomong masih nggak kapok ya lu ya. Ini udah kita planning dari dulu, Janca.
Waduh.
Kita udah
kasar sekali. Bintang 1.
Yeah, I feel like we could start with this screenshot of like countries with the highest and lowest English proficiency in Asia. And yang aku kaget itu kita kalah sama Vietnam sama Sri Lanka.
Oh ya?
Yep.
Vietnam dan Sri Lanka.
Ya, kita kalah.
Tunggu. Vietnam itu negara jajahan Prancis ya? Prancis. Sri Lanka?
I'm not sure. Do you wanna Google that, Peter?
The country that lack of.
Ya, karena gini, karena itu sangat korelasinya tuh kuat banget. Negara yang dijajah sama Inggris, biasa tuh bahasa Inggrisnya tuh jadi bahasa sehari-hari kan.
So perfect example of that. Number 1 on the list for highest English proficiency in Asia is, no surprise, Singapore. Why? They were colonized by the British.
Yeah.
That one is a no-brainer. But the second one is Philippines.
Philippines.
And we have a lot of Filipino audience members actually.
Oh gitu.
Yeah, so shout out to all the Filipinos here. Mabuhay.
English.
Huh?
English.
Sri Lanka was colonized by the British.
Yeah.
Okay. But Philippines was colonized by the Spanish. Philippines, and then the third one's Malaysia. Malaysia is also British. And then South Korea. Kita kalah sama South Korea. South Korea nggak pernah dijajah British.
Jepang mereka.
Yeah, they were colonized by the Japanese.
Sama Jepang.
Yeah. Oh, and kita juga kalah sama Japan. So it goes Singapore, Philippines, Malaysia, South Korea, Hong Kong. Hong Kong was
Ini siapa yang
British.
bikin sih?
Hah?
Siapa yang bikin ini?
Bikin apa?
Yang bikin research ini siapa? Ada gak?
Oh, like the link to the article?
Iya.
I think I can find it. I can find it later somewhere in my computer. But Hong Kong, China, and then there's China, and then there's Macau, which is also China, and then India, British, Japan, Nepal, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Vietnam, Sri Lanka, and then it's us. Yeah.
Kita di bawah negara-negara yang gua nggak expect sih, kayak Jepang sama South Korea.
Tapi aku terkejut that Thailand is below us. I will say I was surprised. And Peter, actually, for a lot of people that don't know, Peter used to live in Thailand. So he used to be an international student in Thailand. And the one thing y'all should know about Thailand is that people there, they do not speak English. You think English skills here in this country is bad. In Thailand, it's apparently worse. Peter said it. Damien said it. Damien also used to live in
Thailand lebih parah ya?
Nggak bisa bilang lebih parah sih, tapi susah cari orang yang bisa bahasa Inggris.
Sedangkan kalau di Indonesia kan tergantung.
Orang kadang kalau kita jalan-jalan masih ngerti kan bahasa Inggris, walaupun dia nggak bisa ngomong. Di Thailand beneran nggak ngerti.
In your experience,
serius
since you live in
Gue di
Thailand,
Bangkok dulu soalnya. Di Bangkok aja nggak ngerti.
Bangkok pun that's the capital city.
Iya, the capital city.
No, in your opinion, since you've lived there, why do you think that is? Yeah. Why are they so low in English literacy in Thailand?
Nggak tahu sih.
Nggak tahu ya.
Nggak tahu. Because they eat tom yum.
Gue kan dulu aerodynamics ya belajarnya, bukan nggak ngeriset itu.
Right. But,
okay.
But I feel like, I mean, I've heard the argument that with Thailand, it's just because like the Thai language in general is very like complex that it makes it very hard for them to try to learn any other language.
Ya itu.
Aku dengarnya gitu. Aku nggak tahu itu bener apa enggak.
Tapi itu juga ada salah satu faktor sih, kayak misalnya orang Jepang kenapa susah juga belajar bahasa Inggris, walaupun di data itu orang Jepang bisa lebih menguasai bahasa Inggris dibandingin Indonesia tadi kan. Karena bahasa Jepang itu kan nggak A B C D E, tapi hiragana,
katakana,
A I U E O, kakiku keko, terus kanji. Jadi bukan alfabet kan. Jadi ketika mereka belajar bahasa Inggris itu agak susah. Contoh paling gampang lah ya, gue nggak tahu lu main atau enggak, tapi kalau yang nonton main game Winning Eleven, itu game bola. Winning Eleven itu tuh pakai komentator bahasa Jepang. Jadi penyebutan namanya pun juga dengan lafal Jepang. Kayak misalnya David Beckham, dia ngomongnya nggak David Beckham, Beckham.
Oh yeah.
Roberto Carlos.
Yeah.
Kelihatan umurnya nih, lama banget.
Ya jadi gue gini loh, gue ngelihat ya kalau Jepang bisa lebih tinggi peringkatnya dibandingkan Indonesia, makanya gue surprise.
Yeah, you would think it's so much easier for Indonesians to learn.
Karena Indonesia kan alfabet kan.
Yeah, exactly. That's why. But Japan beats us, China beats us. China apalagi?
Tapi mungkin kalau China mungkin peringkatnya naik kalau menurut gue karena tuntutan sih.
What's tuntutan?
Demand dari market, karena kan mereka expand ke banyak negara.
Right. I think it's also because China has always been that one country that does a lot in international business. I think it's because of the just.
Yeah.
So they a necessity. Like they have to learn.
They have to learn English.
Yeah.
They're like socialist communist country and like they are socialist communist. Jadi kalau presidennya bilang, lu belajar bahasa Inggris hari ini, besok kita ada deal sama sana, ya orangnya nurut.
Oh yeah. That is true.
Lu pilihannya mau belajar bahasa Inggris atau gua penggal? Oh ya, gua belajar bahasa Inggris deh kalau gitu.
Yeah, that is true. No, because I do some like business dealings in China. I'm not gonna get too much into it, but like I do a little bit. Like I talk to a lot of the factory workers over there in China. They speak good English. I'm not gonna lie. Like, okay, it's not perfect, but I mean, shit, for you being factory workers, y'all good. Y'all speak good English. And I think South Korea, even more so, I'm surprised at how high up South Korea is on this list, because it's not that long ago when South Korea was a really struggling country. A really struggling country. Economically, they were so behind. Culturally, they were not even relevant on the international stage. And I think in my lifetime, I've seen it gone from like a struggling country to now one of the most powerful countries in the world. And I think, I talk a lot with my Korean friends about it. And of course, there are like so many factors. Like nothing is ever just because of one thing. it's always an amalgam of different factors, but I think one of the very strongest factors with South Korea is because they have really solidified their education system. And so I think maybe that's the case with South Korea.
Yeah.
Tapi wah kita kalah sama Nepal, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Vietnam, Sri Lanka. Girl.
Padahal kita sekolah diajarin bahasa Inggris ya.
Nah, I feel like that's one thing that we could discuss today. I found this one article. I was doing research. I'll put everything up on screen for those of you that are watching on YouTube. But there is this article from, I think this is from Tempo Jakarta, and it's from actually it's kind of old. It's from 2013. So back in 2013, Jokowi was still the governor of Solo.
Yeah, belum jadi presiden.
The headline says Jokowi agrees no English in elementary schools. And I'm just gonna read a little bit kutipan from the article.
2013 Jokowi Solo atau di Jakarta?
The article says Jakarta governor. Oh yeah, ada tulis di sini aku goblok. Jokowi Dodo supports a number of revisions stated in the 2013 curriculum. One such revision is the removal of English classes from the curriculum of elementary schools. He said it would be better to teach English to junior high school students so that primary students have more sense of nationalism. And I think that is so interesting. And just now behind the cameras, Andrew and I, we were talking about the difference between nationalism and patriotism.
Iya. Tadi gue juga udah coba mencari pengertian nasionalisme dan patriotisme. Agak mix sih. Little bit mix.
I don't read it out to them?
I don't know the difference. Contoh ya. Wait.
By the way, you guys, while you're pulling that up, we are at the e-commerce studio. Because I'm filming on e-commerce channel right after. Yeah, I'm filming on Andrew's channel right after this. So stay tuned to that episode.
Ya, jadi kita hari ini kolaborasi.
Yes, like the entire day is a TIGS X e-commerce collaboration.
Nih, pengertian nasionalisme ya, ini gue ambil dari website pusdiklat.bps.go.id. Nasionalisme dalam arti sempit adalah perasaan kebanggaan atau cinta terhadap bangsanya yang sangat tinggi dan berlebihan sehingga memandang rendah terhadap bangsa lain. Nasionalisme dalam arti luas adalah perasaan cinta yang tinggi atau bangga terhadap tanah air dan tidak memandang rendah bangsa lain. So, there's two difference meaning. Dalam arti sempit, dalam arti luas.
Because I was telling Andre, for those
berarti
of you that...
yang kalau lu permasalahkan bisa jadi itu yang arti sempit tuh nasionalismenya tuh.
Because what I was saying is that if you go to the States, patriotism, it doesn't carry negative connotations to it, but nationalism does. Because nationalism is more there's this connotation of superiority. If you're a nationalist, like if you're an American nationalist, it's that America is superior. We are the best, and the whole world must respect us and venerate us, and we are number one. Kayak gitu.
So the problem is that the choose of the words.
I feel like it might be. Look, to be fair, it might just be semantics. Bisa aja. It could just be semantics, and in reality, maybe like it doesn't make a difference. I don't know, but I feel like people do tend to conflate the two. As in to say, being patriotic, like when I say that you are a patriotic Indonesian or I am a patriotic Indonesian, is that we have pride in being Indonesian, right? Like we have respect for our country. And I think the main difference with patriotism and nationalism is that nationalism doesn't leave room for you to constructively criticize your country and your society. Whereas patriotism often operates from the perspective of I am criticizing our country. I am criticizing the way that our people do things because I want us to do better and I want us to be better and I know we can be better.
Okay, so it's like nasionalisme dalam arti sempit berarti kayak blind aja gitu. Buta aja gitu. Ya pokoknya gue nasionalisme aja.
Ya bisa aja. I don't know the answer. But I do see that. If we're just gonna talk about Indonesians, okay? We're bringing it here to Indonesia. I do see that with a lot of Indonesians. I feel like they can't tell the difference between bukan nationalism and patriotic. Mungkin itu cuma semantics. Maybe that's just semantics. And I'm like, okay, fine, whatever. But as in, people can't tell the difference between being a proud Indonesian versus being fanatically Indonesian.
Okay.
Do you see what I'm saying?
Menarik.
What do you think of that?
Tentang fanatisme sebagai Indonesia, sebagai orang Indonesia ya. Ini menarik nih. Gini. Karena kita tuh di colonize sama Belanda itu, kalau di buku sekolah tuh 3,5 abad, 350 tahun ya. Kita tuh ada di fase di mana we are too inferior ketika bertemu dengan orang dari negara barat atau orang asing.
Internalized inferiority complex.
Ya. Tapi di satu sisi kita juga kalau ada yang macem-macem dengan bangsa kita, kebudayaan kita, as simple deh, misalnya kayak ada kebudayaan Indonesia yang diklaim sama Malaysia, wah tuh rame tuh. Orang Indonesia tuh pasti akan rame-rame, wah nggak bisa, kita harus begini.
Because we were fighting over the batik, right?
Ya, ada lah. Rendang lah, terakhir rendang kan. Nah itu muncul. Tapi di satu sisi, gue juga suka lihat ya lucunya gini, ketika misalnya ada orang bule datang, artis lah ya, penyanyi.
Bule meaning white, Caucasian.
Ya.
Okay.
White people from Amerika, artis, penyanyi.
Sure.
Mereka ngomong, halo, apa kabar? Saya suka nasi goreng. Akan selalu ada ekspresi kayak gitu tuh. Berdiri tepuk tangan orgasme. Wah, mereka ngomong bahasa Indonesia.
Yeah.
Tapi you know what? Semua artis ya, performer ketika datang ke negara-negara yang mereka kunjungi, mereka kan akan selalu berusaha untuk berkomunikasi kan, engage dengan audiens ya kan, ya belajar bahasa yang simpel lah. Halo, selamat pagi. Kalau mereka ke Thailand mungkin mereka akan ngomong sawadee-khap, ya kan?
Iya.
Sawadee-khap, kot-kot-khap.
Iya, mereka akan belajar gitu. Tapi akhirnya gue menemukan kita itu ada di titik di mana kalau lu bilang patriotisme dan nasionalisme ya, mungkin jadi agak semu karena ya itu tadi.
What is semu?
Semu tuh apa ya bahasa Inggris semu ya?
Kalau saya sih kalau semu tuh pseudo. Tapi
bukan pseudo dong.
Tapi ini bukan pseudo, ini apa ya?
Say it again. What's your sentence?
Kayak apa ya?
Nasionalisme yang semu.
Nasionalisme yang ya fake like blind fake. Nationalist.
Iya. Jadi sebenarnya lu bilang nasionalis, tapi lu sebenarnya juga nggak paham apa yang lu lagi lakukan.
No, I agree.
Kayak gini deh, lu bangga dengan bahasa Indonesia ya, talk about language lagi ya.
Yep.
Lu bangga dengan bahasa Indonesia. Tapi pernah nggak lu berbahasa Indonesia yang baik dan benar?
You know what's really interesting that is coming out of this current controversy of mine? If y'all know. Oh no, everybody knows. What's very interesting is that a lot of people are adding on to what I said in terms of, and I definitely 100% agree with this. A lot of people are saying sebenarnya, of course, if you're going to compare us to other languages like Arabic, English, we are a new language. Indonesian is still a very young language. Of course, we have less vocabulary. That's all I said. We have less vocabulary. The issue is not that we lack vocabulary. Well, we do, but what vocabulary that we do have, and we do objectively have quite a lot, we don't know how to properly use it. Ini aku mau bacain ini bentar. Because I think that this is very this person made a good point. Karim Nas _on X said, kosakata bahasa Indonesia itu kayak yang miskin adalah kemahiran rata-rata penuturnya. Penuturnya. Did I say that right? Okay. Why are you laughing?
Tapi bener.
Kan? Berapa
yang
banyak?
Yang dia bilang bener. Gini ya, gue kasih contoh deh ya. Konteks saya contoh gini misalnya deh.
Okay.
As simple lu nyapa orang di chat. Berapa banyak orang Indonesia ketika menyapa orang di chat menggunakan proper bahasa Indonesia yang bener? Gue sering banget ada orang random nggak jelas ngechat gue pakai huruf P.
Oh, you guys too?
Huruf P.
Itu apa? Like what is that supposed to mean?
Katanya itu lu pakai BlackBerry gak dulu?
Dulu kalau pakai BlackBerry.
Kalau lu mau panggil orang kan ping.
Oh, ping. That's what they're trying to do?
Yeah.
Oh my god, that's so cute.
Padahal kalau lu memang punya nasionalisme yang tinggi, patriotisme yang tinggi terhadap bahasa Indonesia, lu bisa menggunakan kata kayak gini, kalimat kayak gini kan. Halo, selamat pagi, misalnya Pak Peter. saya namanya siapa, perkenalkan diri lu, saya ada kebutuhan ini, bisa gak saya call, telepon bapak, atau kita lanjutkan pembicaraan ini.
Bagus kan? Yeah.
Bukan masalah lu ngomong atau lu punya perbendaharaan kosakata yang lebih banyak atau apapun itulah ya. Menurut gue tuh keributan yang gak penting sih soalnya. Karena biar gimana pun tadi lu bilang bahasa Indonesia kan masih muda ya.
Yeah.
Tapi gimana lu menggunakannya dengan baik. Itu contoh perlu dicat ya. Yang kedua gini deh, nulis email.
Oh God.
Berapa banyak orang Indonesia yang gak bisa nulis email dengan baik?
Bodinya masuk ke subjeknya. Sering banget itu aku dapat. Thank you.
Lalu juga gini deh, ngomong berkata-kata menggunakan bahasa Indonesia yang baik dan benar. Pernah nggak kita ngomong misalnya, kita tahu nih kondisi kalau lagi di situasi formal dan non formal, kita menggunakan kata-kata yang seperti apa?
Oh, I definitely have an issue with that, but that's me.
Iya. Itu juga.
Iya.
Lalu yang lebih simpel lagi nih ya, yang keempat yang lebih simpel lagi. Penggunaan kata di.
Di something.
Ya, di something.
Dikejar.
D-nya tuh dipisah atau disambung.
Ya, that's true.
Apa bedanya dipisah sama disambung?
You are enacting the verb. Basically, dikejar means you are being chased.
Ya, being chased. Tapi gini, penjelasannya adalah di itu kan adalah kata pasif. Itu adalah kata pasif dari kata aktif yang awalannya
mengejar.
Ya kan, mengejar berarti chasing kan. Tapi kalau dikejar, being chased. Itu D-nya disambung. Tapi kalau D-nya dipisah, itu menandakan tempat. Di sana.
Di studio.
Yeah.
Di studio. Itu dipisah.
Yeah.
Itu dipisah.
Yeah. And to continue what Karim Nas said, because this tweet is actually really good. Berapa banyak yang rutin menggunakan kata-kata seperti senarai, lincak, semenjana, rudin, unduh aku ngerti.
Unduh.
Ya, unduh tuh maksudnya download guys. Bustan, cerkas, siniar, atau swafoto. Membedakan kami dan kita saja banyak yang belum mampu.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, itu bener banget. Correct me if I'm wrong, we did talk about this with Choki behind the scenes, right? Where it's like a lot of Indonesians too, like it's not just we have less vocabulary compared to other languages. If you want to dissect the why of that, like there's a lot of different factors that goes into it. But I'm just saying a fact, guys, right? But it's like we have less vocab, but what vocab we have, we can't effectively use it.
Yeah.
And actually, because like the both of you, like I grew up very detached from like Indonesian culture. I mean, like I'm pretty sure you know how I grew up, right? But I think it's better to ask the both of you, like, why do you think that is? And like, because you guys have experience with the Indonesian education system. You went to school here, right? Yeah. So it's like, is it a problem with the education system? Actually, there was this one lady. I'm not gonna reveal her name just yet, but she reached out to the Indoji show and she wants to get on. She has dia apa sih? Dia guru bahasa. Dia tuh guru kan? Yeah, she's a teacher in the Indonesian education system, and I'm gonna invite her on soon, and we're gonna be talking about this in more depth. She'll definitely have a lot more concrete answers, but I think I just want to hear from the both of you, like in your experience of being Indonesian students, like or just like living in Indonesia, growing up here, like why are people like this? Why are you like this?
Waduh, itu kalau mau ngomong, mau bahas itu banyak banget faktor-faktornya sih. Tapi let's talk about from the education, from the education side lah ya. Gua itu kan sekolah tuh masih merasakan keluar. Lu mungkin udah semester ya?
Oh, catur bulan masih.
Sampai jadi SD. Kita tuh satu periode.
Sorry, were you two private school?
No, public school.
Were you public school?
Private,
right?
Oh, public. Gue public school.
Okay.
Kurikulum pas zaman gua for konteks aja, gua tahun ini umur 41, berarti gua SD itu sekitar tahun bentar gue hitung dulu 89 kalau satu SD berarti gue 89 tahun 89.
Damn, I ain't even born yet.
Iya.
Go on.
Indah malah belum lahir tahun 89. Belum juga. Jadi gini, kurikulum waktu itu kita tuh pokoknya diajarin kalau lu sekolah, lu kasih pelajaran, lu hafalin, nanti di ujian keluar itu. So kita memang diajarkan untuk menghafal. Demi untuk mendapatkan nilai yang bagus. Itu pas SD. SD gue nggak terlalu masalah ya, karena kan itu kan is a basic education lah ya. Kita emang butuh banyak tahu, butuh banyak yang kita ingat, yang kita hafal. Kayak let's say perkalian lah, matematik kan. 3 kali 3 itu 9. Kalau kita nggak hafal, berantakan itu. Tapi ketika SMP, SMA, dan kuliah, yang menurut gue harusnya kita tuh proses pendidikannya itu mulai berubah, mulai melatih critical thinking, even di kuliah ya, college ya. Gue gak menemukan itu. As simple ujian soal esai. Esai itu kan adalah bagaimana kita menuangkan gagasan kita, ide kita, walaupun memang ada soal ya, tentang topik yang lagi ditanyakan. Tapi seringkali ketika kita tulis dan itu enggak persis sama yang diajarkan atau yang ada di buku cetak, lu salah. Lu salah. Jadi memang kita tuh, zaman gue gak tahu kalau sekolah sekarang katanya sih udah lebih mending ya. Tapi di zaman gue itu dan teman-teman gue itu lulus sebagai orang-orang yang memang taunya hafalan. So our education di zaman gue itu it's really linear. Jadi nggak bisa tuh kalau udah nanti kita bengkok dikit atau ada yang berubah dikit, we don't have clue. Gue harus ngapain ya? Karena kita dari SD, TK sampai lulus kuliah itu kita diajarkan sebagai seseorang yang ya lu ngikut aja. It's very linear. Makanya ini juga menarik nih. Gue ngeliat ada beberapa temen gue yang kuliah atau sekolah itu berprestasi, tapi ketika masuk dunia kerja itu struggle. Karena dunia kerja itu it's very different dengan lu lagi sekolah. Sekolah itu kan lu bener-bener progresnya itu sistematis kan.
In the real world, there's nobody to give you instructions on what to do and how to do
That's exactly happen ketika banyak fresh graduate masuk dunia kerja. Mereka tuh kayak nggak tahu mesti ngapain. Jadi kayak lu ngulang lagi dan tim lu, kalau perusahaan yang memang punya sistem yang ini ya kasih training yang bagus, it's okay. Tapi perusahaan yang nggak punya.
I will say though, as somebody, I think I'm kind of in the gray zone because buat orang yang mungkin yang baru, yang nggak kenal sama aku and like you're not familiar with the way that I grew up. Maybe I'll just give like a little bit of context. I went to a certain international school here that is under the U.S. Embassy. So we had a very American education, but we're an American school in Asia. So there were we mix a lot of like ways of learning together. And then I moved to America, right? And like I went to an American college. I will say I don't think that is exclusive to just Indonesian education. The education system in general, in most parts of the world, excluding certain areas like Scandinavia, we can talk a little bit about that if we want, but the education system in general has always been focused more on producing good workers that know how to take instructions and follow instructions rather than people that can critically think for themselves and kind of like, do things on their own initiative.
Betul.
That is true in Indonesia, that is especially true in China, Korea, Japan. That's true in Singapore. That's definitely very true in even America. But I will say the scale in America, it's true in America, but I think to less of an extent compared to Asian countries. Yeah. And you know what? Sistem pendidikan yang ada sampai sekarang itu nggak banyak berubah loh. Dari awal-awal itu dibikin. Yeah.
Lo tau gak siapa yang bikin sistem pendidikan modern? Nah,
like
orangnya siapa? Tau gak? Lo coba googling nih, namanya Horace Mann, N-nya 2. Horace Mann. Jadi sebenarnya dia itu politician. yang
there you go.
Ya kan, politician
Yeah.
yang memang ditugasin buat bikin sistem pendidikan. Dan tadi yang lu bilang juga, sistem pendidikan itu dibikin memang supaya orang-orang itu bukan menjadi
entrepreneur,
ya,
leaders,
tapi jadi orang yang taat.
It's
just obey the system.
It's called rote learning, and actually, like, if I can really quickly recommend a book that everybody reads, this is the book that I recommend. Everybody needs to read this book. It's called Stolen Focus by Johann Hari, and he talks about this really well, and it's really scary just how much the education system despite it being called an education system and how it's supposed to educate you, a lot of the times it does the complete opposite. You don't get an education on how to think for yourself, which is one of the most important skills that you need in order to survive in the real world. Yeah. It makes you dependent on instructions from other people. Nah, then that's not learning. That's not.
And for make it worse for make it worse.
Even worse.
For make it worse di Indonesia itu kesenjangan antara yang di kota sama yang di daerah itu, waduh, jauh banget.
Yeah, the discrepancy is huge.
Jauh banget.
I think a lot of us.
Gini deh, lu nggak akan bisa menghasilkan murid-murid atau orang-orang SDM yang ini ya berkualitas. Kalau pendidiknya aja masih mikir, gue besok mau makan apa. And faktanya adalah, ini juga ada penelitiannya, lu boleh Google juga, lu boleh googling juga. Profesi yang jadi pengguna pinjaman online itu adalah guru nomor 1.
No, you know who I'm talking about.
So it's really fuck up kalau kita ngomong pendidikan di Indonesia. Kita mungkin bisa berpikir, kita harus begini. Tapi di satu sisi kita juga harus tarik lagi ke bawah. Guru-gurunya aja kasihan.
Yeah.
Gimana mereka mau ngajarin? Mereka gini. Gue pernah dalam ngobrol dengan beberapa guru lah. Mereka sebenarnya juga tahu tentang hal ini, bukan yang nggak tahu. Tapi kan kurikulum itu kan datang dari pemerintah kan.
Yeah.
Mereka harus ngikutin kan. Mereka harus ngikutin. Tapi di satu sisi juga mereka mau ada kreatif. Susah, repot. Gak bisa kelar ngajar, gue harus cari tambahan lain.
Kalau di Indo tuh ada ini loh, administrasinya itu guru.
Apa tuh yang mana?
Jadi kalau udah jadi guru yang nanti nilai ulangan segala macam masih itu, terus ada laporan-laporan. Nanti kalau enggak ada gajinya nggak bisa turun lah, apalah segala macam. Atau nanti penilaiannya untuk performance-nya di bagian apa nggak masuk. Yang gitu-gitu, dan itu nyita waktunya mereka banget sih.
Yeah. I sympathize with how hard it is to be a passionate educator. I'm sure in Indonesia there are a lot of people that they go into the education sector. Why? Because they're passionate about educating the future generation. I am so sure, and I sympathize. It must be so hard to be passionate about teaching when you are struggling to survive.
Iya, betul. Karena gini, stigma guru di Indonesia itu bukan profesi, it's not a jobs, tapi lu mengabdi.
What's mengabdi?
Mengabdi itu kayak gini deh, kayak lu ini nih ya, lu ada raja nih.
Ya. Yeah.
Terus ada misalnya pembantu rajanya nih. Lu mengabdi.
You serve nation.
You serve.
Okay.
You serve. You not work. You serve. You serve to the country.
Ya.
Jadi konteks stigma mengabdi ini jadi disakanakan, ya lu guru, udahlah nggak usah minta duit. Apa yang sih lu nyari duit, kan yang penting lu ngajar. Nggak bisa.
Iya.
Guru nggak bisa ngajarin secara bagus itu tadi, karena ya memang secara sistem, secara program yang dikasih itu di buku, ya udah that's it. Kita hanya ngejar supaya kita dapat nilai yang bagus, bukan untuk mempelajari gimana sih cara berbahasa Indonesia, gimana sih cara berkomunikasi yang betul. Karena gini, inti dari lu belajar bahasa itu adalah untuk berkomunikasi, bukan jadi ahli bahasa. Kecuali lu mau jadi ahli bahasa ya.
Yeah.
That's different story.
Yeah, if you want to be a linguist, that's a different.
Dan itu yang sampai sekarang gua lihat di pendidikan kita tuh diajarkan untuk menjadi ahli bahasa, bukan untuk berkomunikasi.
Ya.
Ya jadi kita nih, output kita ini output orang-orang yang belajar di sistem pendidikan kita ini ya begini. Output orang hafalan. Gue akuin aja, gue output orang hafalan. Dan sedihnya lagi, lebih mirisnya lagi, masih banyak juga orang-orang yang berpikir ketika mereka udah nggak sekolah atau udah lulus kuliah, ya udah gue stop belajar. I don't need to study atau learn anything new. Just kerja sampai lu mencapai titik atau karir tertentu, tapi ya nggak mau belajar hal yang baru. Padahal sebenarnya lu tuh butuh upgrade diri.
Yeah, and your education does not stop just because you graduated out of a certain educational institution.
Ya makanya kalau menurut gue masalah ini ya kalau mau dicari banyak banget, tapi kalau dari sisi pendidikan ya itu our system itu emang nggak mendukung supaya Indonesia itu bisa menghasilkan human resource yang bagus. Human resource yang ketika mereka lulus kuliah, mereka masuk ke dunia kerja, itu bisa bersaing. Pernah nggak di sekolah diajarin cara nawar?
What's nawar?
Negotiation.
Oh, negotiation skills. I mean, I did. You're talking about everybody else, right? Not people like me. Okay, yeah, that one.
Lu ikut sekolah, lu ini nih, lu kuliah di sekolah bisnis nih.
Yeah.
Ada nggak diajarin cara negosiasi?
If you're asking me, I did, but I don't know about.
Gua sekolah ekonomi, gua nggak diajarin.
Sorry, can I ask where did you go to school here for college?
Perlu disebut namanya nih.
You don't have to. Okay, but you went to a business school.
Yeah, business school.
Okay, econ major.
Yeah, economy major, marketing major.
Marketing major.
Yeah.
And
nggak belajar nego.
And you don't get taught. Okay, that's interesting.
Karena waktu apalagi zaman gue gue nggak ada tuh kayak role play mesti gimana tuh nggak ada. Pokoknya di buku udah belajar udah.
Wait, you didn't go to know your aerodynamics? No. I'm wondering if business students here are taught how to pitch, because I had to.
Zaman gue nggak diajarin.
Jam sekarang mungkin beda.
Zaman sekarang mungkin beda, tapi zaman gue nggak diajarin.
Let us know down in the comments, because when I went to business school, and you had to pitch.
Ada bikin presentasi, tapi ya udah gitu doang.
Yeah, but even if I'm sure it exists in some institutions here in Indonesia, I'm sure, but is that widespread across all business institutions in Indonesia? Enggak, balik lagi kan the discrepancy of the quality of education that we are getting here in Jakarta is very different if you're in freaking Jambi. Misalnya.
Gak usah ke Jambi, lu ke Depok deh.
Oh, oke.
Lu ke Depok deh.
Okay.
Jakarta ke Depok deket kan?
Iya.
Itu udah beda.
Tapi kan UI di Depok and it's like the best.
Ya UI di Depok. Iya, UI di Depok.
Di Depok banyak sekolah.
That's true. There are other universities in Depok and not all of them are UI's level. Yeah, that is true.
Tapi BDW, tau kenapa Indonesia tuh ngafal tuh ada ini juga. Kalau tarik lagi ke belakang tuh zaman orang tua kita tuh sekolah rakyat, mereka kan nulisnya di batu. Mereka nulis batu, habis mereka tulis, dihafalin, habis itu dihapus. Karena batunya yang dibawa pulang, lu nggak bisa nulis.
Iya, benar-benar. Gue pernah dengar itu tuh. Jadi memang.
Gue dulu di sekolah rakyat masih sempat ngalamin.
Iya.
That's so interesting. Yeah. Wow.
Jadi lu harus memorize yang lu catat, tapi terus habis itu kan zaman itu harus bener-bener respect gurunya kan. Jadi nggak ada adu argumen, ya udah diajarin itu lu inget aja.
Oh iya bener, nggak ada adu argumen.
Right.
Gue dulu aja waktu ini, padahal sekolah gue lumayan ya. Adu argumen disabet gue.
Iya bener disabet.
Kurang ajar.
I think
saya tanya.
I think it correlates to a lot of things. I'm not saying memorization skills are bad, by the way, guys. You have to. Take it from me. Ask Peter. I have horrible memorization, and I have horrible memory. And in my experience, this is just my personal experience. I meet a lot of Indonesians that are better than me in terms of memorizing things, and I wish I could be more like that. But I think it's fair to say that the reason why so many education systems around the world focus so much more on rote learning, memorization rather than critical thinking, it's because balik lagi kan the guy Horst or whoever you said, it was a politician that created this education system, and for what purpose? It's because they want to create an entire population that is going to be serving those in power, those in government, right?
Yeah.
Like the top 1%. So there's that. And I think if we're gonna bring it back to the conversation of English, what I find very interesting is that a lot of Indonesians, when they do speak English, I don't know about now, because I think there's this whole Kampus Merdeka thing that I've been hearing about, but essentially after the Jokowi administration, during Jokowi's second administration, they got rid of the English curriculum from all public Public schools, right? Yeah, they got rid of the English curriculum in all public schools, but before that, people in Indonesia were learning English. It was a mandatory thing that you had to learn in school. Bener gak? Ya kan, zamannya kamu waktu middle school maybe or
no, I got it
high school.
My third grade elementary school.
Third grade, yeah, but you had to learn it, right?
Yeah.
No, but and you know what's very interesting? I meet a lot of people that from your time. Peter's not that old, guys. It's for simplicity. From like back in your time, they were learning English, but they focus more on memorizing what to say rather than how to use the language.
Yeah.
I noticed that from a lot of Indonesians when they speak in English. And another thing, because you were saying this before we started rolling the cameras, I think a lot of Indonesians, when it comes to learning in English, a lot of you guys are so scared of making mistakes, and I understand why. I think it's because like if you make a mistake, you think that people are going to laugh at you, right? So that's part of why a lot of Indonesians are very hesitant to learn English, is because they're scared of making a mistake. And I sympathize a lot with that, because when it comes to learning a language, and take it from me, because I'm somebody right now who's learning Indonesian, right? And I make mistakes all the time. Oh my God, ask Peter. I make mistakes all the time. And like, even just now before we started rolling, I asked like, what does kesimpulan mean? And maybe a lot of people would look at that, and if they did that in English, like for example, if they ask like, conclusion itu maksudnya apa sih? And they think that they look stupid. But no, sometimes you have to put yourself in that type of position. You have to admit that you don't know things, and you have to make mistakes in order to learn from it. And I guess that's hard. Yeah.
Karena orang kita tuh susah lihat orang senang lihat orang susah. Jadi memang jadi memang culture kita itu memang tidak terbiasa melihat kalau ada orang pengen berusaha lebih baik, itu pasti pengen dijatuhin. You know the crab mentality.
I was just gonna say crab mentality.
Yeah, the crab mentality.
Yeah, no, that is also true. That's also true. I think it's a lot of things. If we want to talk about the societal attitudes towards English speakers, and why is it that so many Indonesians rasanya tuh kayak kalian itu kebanyakan anti Inggris banget, entah kenapa kayak gitu. And I think there's a lot of things like what you and I were saying earlier on. People hide behind this attitude of, oh, I'm too good for English, because in reality, deep down, they're scared, right? They feel like they're ashamed that they can't speak English that well, and they don't want to admit that. They don't want that to show, and so they hide behind this wall of like, oh, I'm too good for it. Padahal it's like maybe they want to learn, but they're too scared. And why are they scared? They're scared of making mistakes. Why? Because they seem stupid. That's another thing about a lot of Asian education systems, is that they penalize you for making a mistake.
Okay.
If you get something wrong, Asian teachers, like, they will scold you for it. They will penalize you for it, and they will make you feel stupid for it. And that's very different when you go to the West. When you go to the West and you make a mistake, they don't turn it into this thing of like, oh, you're stupid. In the West, there is more of a general understanding that is shared amongst people that in order to learn, you need to make mistakes. Mistakes is part of learning. Itu hal yang wajar. You don't get punished and reprimanded for making a mistake as you do here in Asian societies. I feel like that's part of it as well.
Interesting ya. Gue nggak pernah sampai dibikin seakan-akan bodoh sih, tapi emang nilai jelek aja udah, paling bokap.
Yeah, but tapi kalau nilainya jelek, either your classmates make fun of you or your parents are gonna.
Yeah.
Right?
Benar.
Whereas when I lived in the States, when my friends, they didn't get the best grades. And oh my God, this is especially true with white kids. Their parents are like, no, it's okay. Like, use this as a learning opportunity. Gitu.
Tapi gini, ini menarik juga nih. Tapi dengan seperti itu, apakah bikin itu anak, itu temen lu tuh, jadi lebih baik lagi gak? Atau malah jadi spoil?
I don't think it makes you spoiled. I think if anything, it encourages you to learn more. Because if you know that you have a safe space, you have a safe environment to make mistakes and learn from it, you will learn from it and you will get better. And I feel like a lot of Asian societies, we lack that. That there's this ingrained belief that we have to get everything perfect from the get-go, and if we're not perfect, that it's something wrong to do with us.
Iya lagi. A itu harus A+ ya.
Yeah.
A for
Asian.
A for Asian.
You're not Asian. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So, Yeah, I feel
Tapi
like
not C for Chinese.
Not C for Chinese. No. Chinese starts with a C, but
yeah, you have to get an A.
Yeah, but you have to get an A. But yeah, I think it's that. I think a lot of Indonesians are, when it comes to why they don't want to speak in English. The other thing, I understand, I sympathize with this so much because of the colonial history of English. Like the British invaded, I think like 98% of the world, and that's how English became the lingua franca. In large part, that's how English became the lingua franca. And I understand that it is important for us as people of color to take pride in our own cultural dialects, in our own language. But I think that sometimes that pride gets misdirected to, oh, we're Indonesian, we shouldn't speak English. We should only speak Indonesian. Back again to what I was saying about blind nationalism, to be honest.
Akhirnya itu jadi logical fallacy.
Logical fallacy aja sih emang.
Bener.
Ya.
Sebenarnya gini ya. Ini ada case menarik nih ya. Nih kalau mau ngomong, biasa kan orang kalau ngomongin bisnis, duit lebih nyambung kan. Gini, gue pernah ngobrol sama temen gue yang ngurusin UMKM ya. UMKM for Indonesia. Dia bilang, ada salah satu marketplace e-commerce di Indonesia, tanpa harus gue menyebut namanya. Itu buka peluang kalau seller-seller local seller itu bisa jualan ke luar negeri. Jadi lu dapet market nih nggak cuman hanya pembeli di Indonesia doang. Boleh tuh, lu mau jual ke Thailand, bisa mau jual ke Malaysia, Singapura tuh bisa. Di open, lu tahu gak? Jumlah seller yang daftar dari Indonesia itu kalah dengan seller-seller dari Thailand for the international market. Dan ketika ditelusuri, salah satu alasannya kenapa? Yaitu mereka nggak bisa atau takut berbahasa Inggris. Karena ketika mereka lihat ketemu pembeli dari Malaysia atau Singapura,
inferiority complex kan?
Iya, inferiority complex.
Yeah,
because dan itu akhirnya kan menghambat duit yang masuk ke lu dong. Apa lu bisa dapetin lebih tuh? Waktu itu gue argumennya gini, tapi gue waktu itu di eBay sebenarnya gampang. Gue juga pernah jualan di eBay kan. eBay kan apalagi itu lebih gede lagi kan, internasional kan, lu bisa dari negara manapun kan. Dan sebenarnya simple, lu ketika ada orang DM lu, reach out ke lu, message, nanya barang atau nawar, ya pakai bahasa yang simple aja, bahasa dagang kan.
And by the way, English is the language of trade.
Iya. Kan? Bahasa dagang kan. Iya. Tapi gue dibalikin gini sama temen gue, dia bilang, ya tapi itu lu bro, mereka enggak. Mereka enggak punya mental untuk seperti itu. So see, lu lihat Thailand punya Thai food restaurant di mana-mana. China punya Chinatown di mana-mana. Tapi lu pernah lihat nggak restoran Indonesia ada di mana-mana dengan ciri khasnya?
Oh ya, no, absolutely not.
Itu ditambah kita juga nyaman, comfort dengan Indonesia aja deh.
And that's what makes me really frustrated, because pernah lihat nggak orang netizen Indonesia di kolom komentar nih, konten dari luar negeri, like some fucking like white people content, and they mention anything, the littlest of things to do with Indonesia, one slight mention of Indonesia kayak gitu, and then it's like the Indonesian flags, and then you know like the comments go crazy.
Ada Indonesia tuh.
Iya, ada Indonesia tuh.
Iya.
And it's, and what I'm frustrated at is how a lot of Indonesians are always like, kenapa ya kita kurang terkenal di panggung internasional? Kenapa ya nggak banyak orang kenal sama kita? Like nobody knows where we are, nobody knows who we are, and you cannot in the same breath that you are complaining that we are not prominent enough on the international stage, then penalize Indonesians when we are so much as just speaking an international language. Do you see what I'm trying to say? It's the little things like that just, it doesn't make any sense. You want us to be globally prominent, you want us to be everywhere, but at the same time you have this mindset, Indonesia aja deh, kayak gitu. And like you want the world to know about us, but you don't want to learn the language to be able to communicate with the world.
Yeah, betul.
It doesn't
So
work that way.
That's why Indonesia invisible.
Yeah, that's why we are invisible. That's why nobody knows who we are. That's why nobody knows about us. And look, to be fair, of course there are exceptions. Exceptionsnya tuh siapa? France, Thailand. Di Prancis, orang Prancis tuh paling ogah ngomong bahasa Inggris.
Yeah.
They hate you go to France and you speak English, like you are gonna get the skink eye from the French people, because they don't like it when people come to France. They're very, very patriotic. Like, I mean, French Revolution. Like they very much like they live, breathe, die French, right? So the attitude is, you come over to my country, you gotta learn my language. I'm not speaking your language, right? And then there's Thailand. Thailand, despite having such low English proficiency rates, like they have been able to proliferate their influence throughout the entire world. But the France and Thailand are the exception. There are factors that contribute to why, despite them not being able to really speak fluent English, and a majority of the citizens do not speak English, but they've been able to be so globally prominent. There are a lot of factors that France has, that Thailand has, that we don't have. We're not France, we're not Thailand.
Betul. Dan kita memang ini ya, gue nggak tahu nih, tapi kadang gue ngeliatnya gini, negara dengan 2 musim dan negara dengan 4 musim itu bikin karakter fight dari orang-orang itu beda. 2 musim itu kan ya cuman kemarau, hujan, udah that's it kan. Tapi ketika lu 4 musim, lu tiap quarter lu harus siap-siap. Lagi musim semi, ini spring, summer, fall, winter, lu kan beda-beda tuh.
Ya.
Jadi itu ternyata ngefek ke orang-orang yang tinggal di negara-negara yang 4 musim itu, mereka tuh jauh lebih punya daya juangnya lebih ini, karena ya lu tiap quarter aja mesti ganti musim.
I was just talking about this with a friend. Even so much as those of us that grew up in cultures that in climates that have 4 seasons versus 2 seasons, like it affects your ability to think long term. Because if you live in 4 seasons, let's say if it's spring, summer, your crops are fine, but then like come winter, your crops are fucked, right? So you gotta plan in advance. Whereas if you just live in, it's sunny or it's rainy, your crops are fine all year round.
Yeah, betul.
And it doesn't motivate you to think long term. And I think that translates a lot to definitely Indonesians, but a lot of other cultures as well that are like tropical climates.
Tapi gue nih talk about this ya. Gue sebenarnya juga ada satu concern ya, yang tentang bonus demografi kan, the demographic bonus.
Demographical bonus.
No, what do you mean by demographic?
Indonesia sekarang ini sedang menikmati bonus demografi.
Like we got too many people.
Yeah.
We will have a lot of people that is in productive age.
Ya, productive
age.
Oh,
that's what you mean. Yes, I read about that. Yeah.
Dan itu targetnya kan 2045. 100 years of Indonesia kan. Indonesia emas. Sekarang ini pemerintah sedang, ya biasalah narasi ini lagi digadang-gadang, kita mendapatkan bonus demografi Indonesia emas, bla 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 bla. Tapi kalau gue coba summarize dari pembicaraan kita ya, dengan sistem pendidikan, dengan resource orang-orang kita yang masih belum bisa bersaing dengan orang-orang dari luar, bonus demografi ini, kan tadi lu bilang kan, kita bakal punya banyak orang di negara ini. Kalau ini nggak bisa naik kelas, mereka nggak bisa level up,
and they can't compete globally.
Bonus demografi ini jadi bencana demografi. Dan ini udah terjadi di beberapa negara Afrika, di Brazil.
Definitely Brazil, ya.
Bonus demografinya ini nggak bisa naik kelas. So, apa yang terjadi? Kriminal tinggi, banyak orang nganggur. tapi mereka benar di usia produktif. Kalau Indonesia nggak bisa optimize bonus demografi ini, we're fuck up.
Oh ya,
we're fuck up.
Bonus demografi bisa 100-200 tahun sekali, begitunya kejadian kalau nggak disiapin ya jadi sampah masyarakat.
Dan benar jadi sampah masyarakat ya. Karena come on. Sekarang aja kita udah berasa kan. Dunia kerja deh. Gue talk about tech company lah ya.
Yeah.
Berapa banyak company yang lebih memilih untuk pakai ini engineer dari India dibanding Indonesia? Ini karena mereka lebih berkualitas dibandingin yang di Indonesia.
Sometimes in terms of skillnya oke lah, tapi kemampuan storytelling sama negonya itu
betul.
Ya.
Lu udah jago nih, terus tapi nggak bisa marketing skillnya dia.
Yeah,
atau nggak bisa ngeyakinin bosnya, lu buy-in nih project gue nih keren.
Lu nggak bisa menjual diri lu. Ini juga yang gue sering gue kan tiap bulan tuh ada inilah sharing kelas gitu ya buat public personal branding. Masih banyak orang yang nggak tahu bagaimana cara menjual dirinya.
Ya.
Kayak tadi Peter bilang kan, lu skill mungkin bagus nih, tapi lu nggak pernah kasih tahu lu tuh siapa dan lu tuh apa hebatnya lu ke orang lain. Ya orang nggak peduli, no one care. Sama kan akhirnya dengan Indonesia Invisible kan, karena nggak pernah ada yang berusaha untuk kasih tahu ke dunia internasional Indonesia itu siapa, Indonesia itu apa. So we are invisible.
Sometimes I do think the thing about Indonesian culture, Indonesian society, the thing about a lot of Indonesians is that we're too easily complacent. I think that's
benar.
Right? I think that ties into a lot what you were saying of like, you could be better but this is good enough.
Betul. Gue ketika mulai podcast itu tahun 2019, berarti udah 30 lebih hampir 40 kan. Gue ketika mulai podcast, teman-teman gue yang seumuran gue pada bertanya, ngapain? Buat apa?
Padahal sebenarnya you should have more of this. The attitude should be more of why not.
Ya.
Yeah.
Betul kan. Tapi gue bilang, gue nggak mau ketika gue mati, when I die, seorang lupa sama gue gitu aja. Gue pengen at least ya sekecil apapun gue pengen ada ninggalin legacy deh. Jadi ketika gue udah nggak ada di dunia ini, orang bisa nonton gitu. Oh, gue pernah loh bikin podcast ngundang siapa, pembicaranya ini. Dan ternyata ada orang yang entah mungkin termotivasi, terinspirasi, whatever itu ya.
Well, I think, leaving a legacy, yes, of course, leaving a legacy is one thing, but I think it's also you just don't want to lie in your deathbed and regret the things that you could have tried. You could have done it. And it could have ended well for you. It could have been beneficial for you. But you were so scared to take the chance that you just didn't. And you spent the rest of your life wondering what if.
Ya, ketika tua lu akhirnya nyesel.
Yeah, why didn't I try?
Yeah.
And that's a lot harder to deal with rather than regretting, I failed this, I failed that. Because, if you failed something, like, let's say like if you're starting a business and your business didn't take off and it didn't become, successful in the way that you wanted it to be, at least you could still say, but at least I tried, I gave it my all, I gave it my best.
Yeah.
And I knew what the results were. Whereas if you don't try, you just don't know. And even though that's not exclusive to just Indonesians, just disclaimer, because right now I'm in such hot waters and everybody's like calling me a fucking apa pembenci Indonesia lah, apa ya, enggak, ini like I'm just This is universal, to be honest. I think a lot of people are just...
Yeah.
But a lot of it ties to the way that we have been educated growing up. Not just in Indonesia, but in a lot of countries, of just like getting penalized for making mistakes, being discouraged from... we were raised in a way to follow instructions and not to deviate outside of that. And don't deviate outside of the norm, right? Don't be too bold to act on your own whim. So it affects a lot. then one day you graduate and you carry that with you into the real world. So, yeah, I'm not surprised. I don't know what else to. I don't know what else to say. Like, I'm not even surprised. I'm not even. What else? What do you want me to say? I'm not. I've long disliked the education system, like the traditional education system.
Orang Hokkien bilangnya bohwat.
Hah?
Orang Hokkien bilangnya bohwat.
Iya. Udah bohwat bener. Bohwat.
What does bohwat mean again? My mom says that a lot. Like
udah fuck up, udah lah, gue udah fuck up.
Yeah, you throw your hands up, right?
Terserah lu lah.
Yeah, emang, because it's like it's frustrating and like, what can I do about it? Like, sometimes you just gotta pull a bohwat.
Yeah.
Ya mau gimana lagi, but that's a government's job. But yeah, no, where
yang dari awal kita bahas itu sebenarnya tuh kayak tadi gue bilang kan, kalau bahas ditarik satu faktor doang pendidikan, tapi sebenarnya kamu ditarik tuh banyak banget.
Yeah, no, exactly, because this is a very this is a very
complex. This is a very complex problem.
Complex and complicated conversation, and there's so many factors and like sub factors, and it's complicated, guys. I don't know.
Jadi gini ya, kalau misalnya sekarang lagi ribut-ribut di Twitter mempermasalahkan potongan video lu sama Cinta Laura, menurut gue memang karena masih banyak masyarakat kita itu memang belum siap
menghadapi fakta itu.
Ya, dan akhirnya mereka outputnya adalah marah. Tapi ya, gue sih berharap sih ini ya, apapun nanti yang jadi tipping point ya, tapi ya gue berharap sih moga-moga dari ini orang bisa sadar gitu loh. Kita tuh kalau nggak bisa level up, kita nggak mau level up dalam bentuk apapun, entah dalam bentuk bahasa, kayak mau belajar bahasa yang baru, bahasa Inggris, which is we need, karena kalau mau bersaing secara global, lu kalau berkomunikasi aja lu kagak bisa, gimana coba?
I want to ask you a question. My friend asked me to ask you this actually for this episode. She asked, do you think that the argument that English is a language only accessible to the rich is still true today?
Interesting.
What do you think, Peter?
Kalau accessible sih enggak ya. Tapi kalau
karena banyak orang Indo ngomong kayak gitu. Banyak loh di kolom komentar, banyak banget that they still make this association that English is the language of rich people only.
Gue gak setuju sih sama itu. Gue gak setuju sama statement itu karena gini.
Mental.
Lu kan punya ini ya, smartphone ya, gadget, gawai. Bahasa Indonesia gawai. Lu kan punya gadget ya. Instead lu ngata-ngatain orang, kalau ada orang yang lu gak suka, lu push head comments ke dia, lu bisa belajar bahasa Inggris di sini lu. Kalau dibilang accessible cuman untuk orang kaya doang,
gampangnya Duolingo lah paling gampang.
Duolingo. And I understand. Okay, Duolingo. Correct me if I'm wrong. Duolingo is not free. There is a free version.
Free.
It's entirely free.
Free. Cuma if you wanna get some certification like English test or
you gotta pay.
You gotta pay for the test.
I see.
For the test.
Right.
But
to learn, it's free.
To learn is free. You can learn Russian. You
there
can
you
learn
Spanish.
Chinese,
Yeah.
Lu tau gak gue belajar bahasa Inggris lebih bisa untuk berkomunikasi itu dari mana? Main game.
Yeah. Media and entertainment. A lot of people, they tune into TICS because they use this to practice their English comprehension skills.
Dibandingin di sekolah ya, tapi dari game. Karena kenapa? Gue main Resident Evil nih. Kalau gue gak ngerti ceritanya, gue gimana bisa lewatin puzzle-nya?
Yeah.
Final Fantasy. Gue gimana bisa lewatin kalau gue gak ngerti ceritanya? Mau gue harus belajar kan?
I feel like I want to dissect this a little bit. I understand why a lot of people have this classist association with English. We have to admit something, that English has a very, it has a very racist, classist, colonial history. of how, especially when you think of how English has come to establish itself as the lingua franca. It has been by and large due to colonization and invasion. Because we, in Indonesia, correct me if I'm wrong, Peter, we weren't colonized by the British, but we were invaded. And that is how English came here in the very beginning. And then the establishment of English becoming the language of trade, science, and international relations, that's because of the Industrial Revolution. The Industrial Revolution started in the United Kingdom. So that's not racist well, maybe that is classist. Maybe some people think it's classist. I don't know. But as in to say, Industrial Revolution aside, English has been established by and large through force, by and large through coercion, by and large through guilt and shame as well. The British back then, like, they would shame and guilt all these countries and societies that they invaded or colonized. And it was a shameful thing for you to not be able to speak in English. It was a classist thing. If you are able to speak in English, it means that you are part of the you are part of them, and you're well educated, and which means if you're well educated, that usually correlates with money. So I understand. Trust me, guys, I understand where all of this is coming from, but in my opinion, there comes a point where all that just becomes an excuse for you to remain complacent and not being able to pick up a new language.
Yeah, orang akan ada 1001 alasan supaya malas aja.
Yeah.
Just being lazy aja mereka sebenarnya udah.
Yeah. Because I mean, what excuse do you have? Duolingo is free. YouTube is free. There are a lot of English courses on YouTube.
Lazy people have so
many excuses. Yeah.
Memang pada dasarnya malas aja.
And can I say something? Oh my God, I really need to say this. I feel, especially because I'm already in such hot waters and people are so fucking pissed at me. Guys, I'm not saying aku juga nggak pernah ngomong you have to speak English and you have to know how to speak English. Realitanya, masih banyak orang di dunia ini, maybe they live in, one of the rural areas in whichever country that they reside in, that you don't need English to get by. You don't need English, like, at all. If you live in, fucking desa in the middle of random ass, like Indonesia, if you live in some random ass village and you don't need English in order to survive or to advance your career opportunities, because I don't know what career opportunities.
Devil's advocate.
Okay, go ahead.
Ada susah lagi. Usually they have this handicraft and some, biasanya punya handicraft gitu kan. Nah, terus pernah ada yang brandingin itu tapi and then dijualnya di luar. Handicraftnya harganya mahal banget gitu. Jadi kalau lo bisa bahasa Inggris atau apa ya lumayan. Misalkan di desa tadinya lu dapatnya belas raskin nih. Sekarang bisa beli beras yang enak, gitu lah.
Iya. No, actually, no, hold on. I take back everything I said because I was watching a documentary. I was watching a documentary in the Philippines, and they were in like the very rural areas of the Philippines. Absolutely nobody there speaks English but one person. But one person that could communicate with this Western tourist that is a huge YouTuber and makes documentaries. And actually, like, when you really think about it, that is one way to basically
tourism.
Draw in tourism, right? And also just communicating information of like this part of the Philippines exists. Like we're a very small civilization. Like I think they're one of the water civilizations or something. Oh my God, that sounds really fucking stupid. They're not Avatar, but like I'll put it up. My gosh, I'll put it up. I'll put it up. But basically, they're this kind of like hidden society in the Philippines that nobody knows about. But because there's this one guy that can speak English and communicate with this person, this Western person with a gigantic YouTube channel, and it had like 5 million views or something, and now people do know about them. So actually, and what you said is true, like there's business trade, there's trade in villages as well. So I guess, actually it's true. Like even if you are somebody in the village, like in like some like rural area, and you don't need English like for your day to day, but if you can, it will increase career opportunities, right? Okay, then
Gak ada salahnya sebenarnya lu belajar sesuatu hal yang baru, entah bahasa Inggris, entah skill baru, skill ngedit video misalnya, skill podcasting misalnya.
That is true.
Karena gini, when opportunity comes, tapi lu nggak punya skill yang dibutuhkan untuk bisa memenuhi opportunity itu lewat kan. Bayangkan kalau tadi itu YouTuber ke tempat kecil kan, kalau nggak ada orang yang bisa ngomong bahasa Inggris, lewat kan opportunity-nya. So menurut gua, ya udahlah, nggak ada salahnya belajar hal baru. Nggak ada salahnya belajar, misalnya kamera, lu punya handphone, lu belajar fotografi, lu belajar ngambil angle video yang bagus, lu belajar ngedit. Kalau lu dapet duitnya, kan lu juga yang nikmatin kan.
Yeah.
Lu juga yang naik kelas kan. Dan lu nggak perlu ngata-ngatain orang kalau ngeliat ada orang sukses akhirnya kan.
Udah gak iri lagi.
Lu nggak perlu iri. The problem with the orang-orang ini ya, dengan orang-orang yang suka hate comment itu, mereka tuh masalahnya tuh insecure.
Trust me, I know.
Minder.
There's nothing wrong with you not being able to speak in English, in the sense that nobody's making fun of you because you can't speak in English. Nobody thinks less of you because you can't speak in English, right? And that, you know what? I'll even say it's fine if you don't want to learn English. Mungkin ada orang di luar sana mereka kayak, aku anti banget sama bahasa kolonial, saya tidak mau, I refuse to learn English. That's okay.
That's okay.
That is totally okay. What I'm saying is, don't make it other people's problems.
Jangan nyalain orang kan.
Don't project that onto other people just because they are speaking in English and just because they're reaping the career opportunities and benefits of them being able to speak in English and you can't. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
That's really, I think, all anybody is saying, but it's for some fucking reason it's so hard to communicate that with these people.
Karena mereka hidup di bubble-nya. Dan di bubble-nya mereka ya itu tadi ya, penuh dengan orang-orang yang punya crab mentality, ya udah akhirnya
right.
Ya udah mereka gitu aja.
I don't know, but I will say the government right now is playing a really big part because of this. I think there's a lot of nationalism that is being injected into the local Indonesian curriculum, and patriotism is good. Nationalism can be very dangerous if you leave it unchecked. And I think, is it Kampus Merdeka is just for universities, right? But I don't know if there's a name for the local Indonesian high school curriculum or like the middle school or elementary school curriculum, but whatever it is, like them removing, the Indonesian government, the Jokowi administration removing mandatory English lessons in the local curriculum is one of the worst things to have ever happened to Indonesian education, in my opinion. Because ya lihat sekarang keadaannya kayak apa.
Tapi itu kan tahun berapa? 2013 ya?
Well, no. So 2013, Jokowi just agrees. I think they were proposing revisions to the local curriculum to remove English, and he agrees with it. And then when he got into office, that's when he enacted it. And now there's no English curriculum
for elementary school.
Starting. Dulu kan it started in elementary.
Yeah
kan? It started in elementary. Now you don't get it in elementary, and I heard you don't get it in elementary and middle school, and I don't know if you get it in high school. Maybe people can leave comments
mungkin kita
down
bisa
below.
cross check juga kali ya buat yang nonton yang mungkin anaknya sekarang sekolah di SD ya. Coba mungkin kalau beneran udah nggak ada atau belum gitu. Karena gue udah nggak sekolah lagi sih dan nggak punya anak juga, jadi gue nggak tahu.
Kemarin ceritain sih teman-temannya dia, like he's close with like his adik-adik kelas from his former high school, and they're now saying we don't get taught English anymore.
Oh gitu. Jadi bener ya.
Yeah. That is insane. Because actually, I'll put this up on screen. Thailand is experiencing an issue where they can't, because of low English proficiency rates in Thailand, it's hindering a lot of the country's developmental prospects. Because it's as simple as, of course, how are you going to advance if you can't communicate with people that want to do business from the outside?
Iya.
It's literally
Tapi
just
restoran
that.
Thailand di mana-mana loh.
But I think Thailand has an advantage in, what is it called? Food, apa sih namanya?
Tom yum, tofu.
No, like food tourism. Is that what it's called?
Yeah,
food tourism, right? Like they're very strong in that department, that it compensates for their low English proficiency, is what I'm trying to say. But in other sectors outside of food, I don't know how Thailand's doing. We only know Thailand for food, and like
I know Thailand from Ladyboy. Their cabaret show. And their cabaret show is really good.
Thailand has some of the best drag queens in the world. That one is definitely true, and the ladyboys are hot.
Yeah.
That's also true. But yeah, well, we don't really know Thailand for anything else other than food, and ladyboys, no.
Thailand apa ya?
Elephant.
Not elephant.
Buddhism.
Engineering-nya lumayan sih Thailand.
I'm not saying that their education
Cimeng di Thailand terkenal.
I'm not saying their education system is shit. I'm not saying that at all. But I'm just.
Do you know Cimeng?
I've heard of it. I don't know what it is. What is it?
Smoking weed.
Rokok ganja.
Oh.
That's legal in Thailand.
Yeah, the good kush. Yeah, but I'm not saying Thailand has a horrible education system. I'm just saying like there are like one article I read. It's just that low English proficiency could hinder the country's development, just because it's as simple as how are you going to do international business and how are you going to get ourselves more out there. Cuma itu aja. And so for the Indonesian government to awalnya kita ada English in our curriculum and then for them to get rid of it, I'm like, what? Why would you do that? And I read the article and it said that this is from the I got this one from the Jakarta Globe. It said Indonesia is the only country in Southeast Asia that has not made English a compulsory subject at elementary level. Jadi di Thailand they do get taught English.
Mungkin.
Because this is what the Jakarta Globe said. We are the only Southeast Asian country that
statementnya begitu mungkin
has not made English a compulsory subject at elementary level. The Jokowi government, known for its pragmatism, is going against the grain on this issue. English proficiency obviously has huge benefits these days, since the language's status as a global lingua franca is unparalleled. But his administration has continued to turn a blind eye to the fact. And that's true. And I think it's just a matter of time. The Jokowi administration is not that long ago, and I think we're going to really see the repercussions of this in maybe 10-20 years from now.
Mungkin tujuan peraturan ini supaya tempat kursus bahasa Inggris laku kali.
The Tempo article said that Jokowi agreed to it because Jokowi said it would be better to teach English at a later age and to focus teaching Indonesian when they're younger so that they have more sense of nationalism. It's just a nationalism. It's a nationalist agenda.
Argumen yang aneh.
Yeah, but anyway, we're not even in government. All we can do is just bitch and talk about it.
Udah kejadian.
Yeah. I have so much I want to say, and at the same time I don't even know where to like start and compose myself, and also because I'm like stressed out because I'm under so much fire right now. So is there anything you want to add?
Mudah-mudahan ini nggak trending ya.
Let's just keep the clips of this to a minimum, I think.
Klipsnya gue bikin ini doang nonton. Kucing pemanggil harta gitu.
Gak gini. Ini serius ya. Sebenarnya kalau mau di summarize dari obrolan kita tadi, ya tadi gue juga udah sampaikan beberapa kali sih. It's not about lu belajar bahasa Inggris lebih baik atau bahasa Inggris kosakatanya lebih banyak daripada bahasa Indonesia or apapun itu ya.
Yeah.
Tapi bahasa itu menurut gua adalah skill yang bisa mengantar lu ke opportunity lain.
Yeah. That's all languages are, and communicating with people as well, gaining new perspective as well.
Kalau mau bicara sejarah manusia purba ya, kenapa Homo sapien itu akhirnya survive? Homo sapien itu waktu itu masih satu angkatan sama Homo Netherlands ya? Apa sih?
Neanderthalensis.
Iya, Neanderthalensis. Yang secara fisik tuh lebih gede. Lebih besar. Tapi kenapa akhirnya Homo sapien yang survive? Karena Homo sapien can communicate.
Yeah.
Mereka menang perang karena berkomunikasi. Dan kita nih turunan dari Homo sapiens sampai sekarang bisa berkomunikasi ya itu tadi. Menurut gua akhirnya peluang-peluang pun akan selalu datang ketika lu bisa berkomunikasi. Lu cinta bahasa Indonesia, bagusin bahasa Indonesia lu. Berbahasa Indonesia lah yang baik. Ketika lu ngomong, yakinkanlah orang-orang yang lu yakinkan, entah dalam deal bisnis atau misalnya mau ngelamar cewek lu. Tapi yakinkanlah mereka dengan bahasa lu yang baik gitu. Jangan hanya cuman ya ini terus ada orang ngomong pakai bahasa Inggris lu hujat-hujat, terus lu ngechat orang pakai pp. Enggak bikin lu lebih baik sih sebenarnya sih. Lu hanya itu tadi ya, hanya untuk menutupi rasa malas lu aja sebenarnya menurut gua. So balik lagi tergantung ini masing-masing dari kita. Lu mau naik level sejauh mana? Kalau gua nggak mau jadi orang ya udahlah gua begini-gini aja. No.
I think it would be so beneficial if more people, especially here in Indonesia, could start seeing English and other foreign languages as a tool of advancement rather than something to do with, you know, your integrity or your morality and like it turning into like a superiority thing. It's just a tool. It's a communication tool. And with communication, it broadens up your opportunities. Career opportunities, dating opportunities, all types of opportunities.
Punya mimpi pengen punya cewek bule, cowok bule, lu nggak bisa bahasa Inggris, ngomongnya apa coba?
Yeah, and you know, again, if there really are, kalau memang benar-benar ada dari kalian di luar sana yang benar-benar nasionalismenya itu banget dan kalian sama sekali tidak akan pernah mau belajar bahasa Inggris karena dasar bahasa kolonial, bahasa orang bule, gak apa-apa, gak ada yang maksa kamu belajar, tapi jangan kamu menyerang orang lain karena mereka memilih jalur yang beda dari kalian.
Ya, agree to disagree lah, itu kan udah paling peace. Gua episode ini Indah ini ya, nggak marah-marah, hebat ya gue sebagai guest bikin Indah tenang loh.
You know what? It's you know what? I'm just realizing, this studio is so quiet.
Yeah.
Ya emang itu tujuannya suaranya nggak.
No, but
peredam suara di mana-mana.
No, but as in to say like it's so quiet that it's kind of eerie to me. It's kind of eerie because I'm not used to things being this quiet. It makes me feel kind of weird. So I'm like,
this
makes me feel
full covered by soundproof material like this. So yeah,
like it makes me feel kind of small, but maybe it's a good thing. This is probably.
Yeah, betul.
Like, wait, what do you want to say?
Like back then in the 17s of 18s something, ya kan. Walaupun Royal Society itu klub ilmuwan terkeren di Inggris adanya dan banyak orang-orang Inggris, tapi karena lingua francanya waktu itu bahasa Latin, semua orang mesti pakai bahasa Latin. Termasuk Isaac Newton. Kalau enggak itu ilmuwan Inggris ya nggak kelihatan.
Yeah. Oh, actually, yeah. Another thing I forgot to mention, like when you can't deny the fact that English is the lingua franca of the world, and so much of the world's information is in English. If you refuse to learn English and if you do not improve on your English comprehension, you don't have to speak it. By all means, you don't have to speak it, but at least understand why, so that you can access information from the outside. And that's what a lot of Indonesians are lacking. I swear, because oh God, no, actually, no, I can't say that because I'm gonna get in trouble. But no.
Jangan dong.
Jangan. No,
gue udah bikin podcast ini chill loh.
Yeah, that's why I came here for these soundproof walls. But no, I can't say it. No, I'm gonna get in trouble.
Ini cuma soundproof dari dunia nyata. Bukan dari dunia online.
I'm just saying, by the time this episode comes out, I hope everyone calms down.
Iya, bener. Jangan terburu-buru lah. Nanti terlalu mepet.
Biar mepet juga nggak ada komennya nggak jelas lagi. Wah ini
aman.
Si paling startup gua.
But yeah, that is it for today's episode, you guys. Be sure to like, comment, and fucking subscribe, you cunts. This is Andrew from e-commerce.
Gue udah diperkenalkan di akhir ya ini ya.
No, they can read the description as well.
Bener.
They can read the description as well. But Andrew from e-commerce.
Yeah. Thank you for being Indah here. Udah mengundang saya.
Thank you for being my therapy session today.
Ya. Sebenarnya gue jadi lebih berasa gue hostnya Indah tuh guys itu hari ini. Dan anyway, Indah juga bakal jadi guest di Mushroom.
Yes.
Podcast gue.
Yes.
Harus nonton kalian.
Mursfam
juga harus nonton.
Awas aku juga bikin marah Mursfam. We'll see what happens. Bye.
Bye.